Don't pay a quarter, don't pay a dime, don't pay a penny, don't waste your time. If half a penny is all he asks, don't give him any. Lay off his tracks, my half a penny is what he'll say. Still a steep price, just walk away.
Good afternoon, Hit Nation, folks, cats, and everything between and beyond. My name is Roy, the host of Pennies, and the host of these pre-game pennies. First in a long time to discuss the Heat and the Suns, but not just the Heat and the Suns. Before I do this, and this is unscripted, I normally have my script over here. I read from it. I still have the information that I need here, hopefully already at hand, so I don't go too crazy and too off script. But the main and most important thing that I really wanted to share with you guys are my thoughts on what is truly happening this season. So obviously, after getting to a point in which we have enough of a sample size to double those 20 or first games, we can now look at the Miami Heat sensibly and reasonably and say that they are a mid team. And then I want to discuss a couple of things. First of all, Gilbert Arenas' take on the Miami Heat and Heat culture. And I also want to talk about Barry Jackson's propositions and where I fall in Barry Jackson's propositions. Okay, I want people to talk to me. I want to have conversations so we can film, because honestly, me talking, myself talking, just to keep the channel alive, just to record an impossibility when my son is here. I was actually talking to people, recording messages while my son was here, and while I was trying to speak with people, my son was yelling. So it's a very difficult thing to be a single father. But thankfully, his mom is in his life, completely out of what we're trying to do. Let's start with Gilbert Arenas. So Gilbert Arenas said that, I'm just giving you the gist. I'm going to try to find it. I posted here. But he said basically that there is no such thing as heat culture, right? Heat culture is a myth that is basically kind of propagated to kind of, and we're going to talk about the nature of the word heat culture itself, but propagated in the sense of keeping fans happy and understanding, okay, this team is never going to tank. They're always going to fight to get into the playoffs. This is basically what Gilbert Arenas says, right? There is no such thing as heat culture. The Heat won when they had to win Wade, and then because of Wade, they were able to bring Shaquille O'Neal. You mentioned a couple more people. My brain is not working well right now, so I'm going to try again to put his quote there. And then this whole thing, when Shaquille left, became heat culture, and heat culture didn't win anything until we brought LeBron James, and we had a big three, right? And I think that is a very good point, because then he says heat culture since then makes the playoffs, wins conference finals, but does not win championships. And that is just a fact. That is true. We did bring an A-lister in Jimmy Butler. Have to say that's true. We can't deny facts. That's one of the big problems that we have today, not just in this country, but in the world, is that people are rejecting the evidence of their own eyes. So we cannot reject the evidence of our own eyes in denying that Jimmy Butler was the last A-lister that we got. And the faith that front office has. I've said this here when I started recording. I've said this here when my happiness became something, because I was just randomly recording. Now my happiness is something. We actually have 50 subscribers. And some of my videos even get 30 plus views. I appreciate it. Really, I do. If anybody watches this until the end, I appreciate it. But basically what Gilbert Arenas is saying, which I normally hate him, and I do, I not him, but the persona and the things that he says, yes, certainly. But I normally disagree with him as well. And this time I can't, because I think that he's right. If the culture means that we are not hungry for championships anymore, because to save money, we're not going to bring, the caliber that we need to bring, is not necessarily incorrect, other than the fact that if you look at the reality of the situation, it's not like Miami hasn't tried, but it's also very characteristic of Miami to offer a supermax extension to a player like Bam. And that's when Barry Jackson comes along, because Barry Jackson also questions his value in money in terms of cap space and in terms of what can help the team. But Barry Jackson brings up another proposition. Before Barry Jackson, let me just finalize. Okay, I disagree with Gilbert Arenas in general, but in this case, I think he's right. I don't think that Mickey Arison doesn't want championships, but I do think that the team is trying to look for the most affordable way to do so, which is very relevant to how businesses work. And so it becomes more important to kind of reach the playoffs and get a certain quota than necessarily getting rings. But that because we did miss on actually doing something because we refused to trade people that at that time could have had the value that we needed to get certain assets in return. But also, as Five Reasons Sports mentioned several times, and I mentioned them because they are, one of the ones that I mean, they are the one that I watch the most, right? And I don't subscribe to them, by the way, because of my situation, but I do watch them when they release the videos on YouTube. And I think I haven't watched them in a few days. This is completely random right here, but it's not just random. I really want to kind of express this frustration that I have. That it's true. At the end of the day, we are trusting certain level of players to bring us something that we kind of know that it's only all stars that can give. And this team may have an all star in Norm Powell because of the fact that he scores at will when he's healthy and when he's engaged, because he has had also a few games that he hasn't. But that's the only thing that he does. And then, of course, we have Tyler Hero in a game um, uh, against the Thunder, in which he's the only scoring option, and then he scores 19 on 21 shots, which is what happened last season. But he's only really played, I think, 9 games thus far, if I'm not mistaken, 9 games, right? And then now we are 3-6 with Hero back in the lineup, which, as agreed, as everybody analyzed, regardless of that being Hero's fault, it's the fact that there is a new person in the lineup. A healthy Heat does not seem to present the same novelty as an unhealthy Heat, because now that we have the pieces coming together, but after missing 20 games, that was Tyler Hero, and then missing more time, and apparently some people say he's upset, some people say he isn't, but apparently some people say he's upset, of course, because of the contract extension. They feel it's palpable. I see in Tyler Hero frustration at times, and at times I don't, because it's very difficult to read players. Even Jimmy Butler, there was a time there that he had me fooled that he was actually going to fulfill his obligations in the court, and that was just that. It just had me fooled. And so, I don't know whether Hero is happy or not, but I'm pretty sure that he is in trade talks, and I'm pretty sure that Bam isn't in trade talks. And then this is again starting with Barry Jackson. Now, Barry Jackson said that he really has a few paths to go, but let's just kind of summarize them because they're going to be posted here. The first one is to make a trade right now. See if you can get perhaps a couple picks, but see if you can get another player, not just serviceable, but as good as possible to compete for a championship now using this current core. You can even go in a way to trade, again, Tyler Hero for those 2 picks, and again, or two picks for 2 players or future tradable picks, so that we can compete right now on a better level. I think that's what he says, but something along those lines. And then the second option is trade all the valuable assets in your roster, and I would say except for the young ones. Keep our drafts. Keep Jovic, keep Jaquez, keep Yakuchonis, keep Larson. It's difficult for me to say keep where. Right now, I'm going to get to him in a little bit if I remember, but he has shown laziness, and he has shown a limitation as a player, and he has shown an inability to break through if he doesn't think that something is wrong. And a lazy player normally doesn't think they're wrong if they keep getting minutes. So Spo took him away from the game, which could also be counterproductive because it needs more time to adjust. Maybe Ware was going to actually make a difference in the end game against the Thunder. I don't think he would, but there is an argument for that for anyone who's an outsider and doesn't know what Coach Spo thinks. I don't think that his issue is with adjustments. I think his issue is, as Raf said, when we don't defend well, and then we are unable to get some scores. We get lazy. We just give up, and that's what it seems that happened against the Thunder. Up to a certain point, we're still fighting, but then after that, that's it. And that's certainly what happened against the Pacers pretty much in the second quarter, right? So it's very disheartening. And I would say that we would trade then Tyler Hero, Normal Powell, obviously, Bam Adebayo, get those guys for as many picks as possible, say like 8 picks, and basically build with a young core. Both of them carry risks because in both scenarios, you're basically looking at trading Tyler Hero, and it depends for whom. Like I would say, never Tyler Hero for Ja, because Ja Morant to me does not have. I mean, he does have a great upside, but it depends on what version we're getting. Brandon, I forgot his last name. I think Brandon Thompson, but in the Facebook chat in our group, he said that. I can't put it here because it's an audio. Been asking these folks to actually come and talk to me here, but we haven't yet been able to figure out our schedules, as if because we're super busy with life. We're just trying to be fans here. One more thing that is very important for me to mention. So to finalize, I go with Barry Jackson. One more thing that is very important for me to mention before we finish this pregame is that FanDuel has not paid the Heat and the Marlins have cut ties with them because of the fact that they owe money and they haven't fulfilled their obligations as a network. We all know that originally this is all Fox and the structure is all Fox's, but somebody has to go and put a name in that, and that person is going to be charging the subscription. I canceled mine because, as Barry Jackson said, they could just very well tomorrow cut ties with Miami Heat or Miami Heat, vice versa, and then they're not broadcasting anymore, and I paid for a full month and I'm not getting the money back. So I just canceled it for now, right? I'm going to watch. I'm going to follow the scores. I'm going to try to watch as in my own ways, as well as I can. Maybe somebody can lend me their username and password. But that's it. I'm not paying for FanDuel anymore because unfortunately we can't advertise businesses that are in financial trouble. We've been burned so much for that, especially us lower middle class. So this is just people to be useful. Research on that. Do your research. But if I were you, I'll cancel your subscriptions and not be caught off guard. Make sure that you renew your subscription once you are aware that they are for sure going to pay what is owed. Today, the Heat play against the Suns, who have been doing fantastically well, the best team since Christmas, I think. The Heat will probably not have, not probably. Normal Powell is questionable with the back. I know the way Normal Powell thinks he needs to play, so he might just come back and play. And the Suns are not going to have Jalen Green, of course, out with a hamstring injury. And of course, Bouye is out with a concussion. I didn't know that. The guy that could have been ours, right? And okay, the Phoenix Suns are 22nd in points per game, 114. They're 20th in rebounds per game at about 43.5, assists per game with about 25.5. They're 18th, and they are only 5th in opponents' points allowed per game with 111.8. That's just a generic profile. Miami Heat is 6th in points per game, 118. 0.4 rebounds per game were 7th, 45.6 assists per game were also 7th. Of course, 28.6. I miss the days of the 30 assists because that also means that we scored better. And of course, opponents' points allowed per game, we are 22nd, almost 118. We are 8th in the East, while the Phoenix Suns are 6th in the West. They're 24-15, and we are 2019. So if we lose, we go back to 500. Of course, we have the game against the Celtics coming up. So nothing easy for us. Nothing easy for us. We don't know what's going to happen before the trade deadline. Things could get interesting. That last option with Barry Jackson is a wet dream. Pat Riley is never going to trade all those players for 8 because that basically means tanking, and that's something that we don't do. That ties back to Gilbert Arenas because Heat culture. I still believe in Heat culture, and that's the last thing that I'll say. Heat culture just basically means really and truly that we identify as something, and that something means that we're going to play. We're going to try to play through injuries. We're going to dug ourselves out. We're going to be the underdogs. At some point, we have to be sick and tired of being the underdogs because when we got those 2 consecutive rings and we got the first ring, that we worried. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm, stay as happy as possible. It's a very complicated world of ours. And let's go eat.